All right, so we are back. Hello, brilliant beauties and wonderfully reformed perfectionists. I'm your host, Naketa Ren Thigpen. Excited as always to be back with you. All right, so in reflection, this last few months, since I came back from our micro sabbatical, one of our signatures that we call Self-Lovecation, which is just a term that we use for the different types of micro sabbaticals that you can use to infuse yourself, restore yourself, just kind of recalibrate, get back to center for you. It's not all about sitting, pretzel style, kumbaya. There's all kinds of ways to have fun and invite other people into your space for a little piece of the love in your self-lovecation. But the point of it is self-lovecation for you to refuel. And in that, there takes a lot of boundaries, right? When your friends, your family, your lover, your whoever finds out that you're going to be off for more than a beat, like more than a couple hours, and sometimes including those couple hours, sometimes they lovingly, because they miss you, they want to be with you. You're often so booked and productive. I don't really like to use the word busy unless I'm using it as part of a statement. But because you typically are not available as often as you say you are, as you want to be, as you would like to think you are, because your schedule is so full and you're so productive, that often when you're in a space of sabbatical, vacation, or time, those you love want to kind of inundate you. It's like, oh, we got to hook up. We got to go. We got to do. I want to do this for you. And there's nothing wrong with them wanting to, right? Like, it's beautiful to be wanted, especially when we have an actual epidemic of loneliness right now in this world. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than being wanted. You have to often create boundaries around what you know that you need in that moment, though, which may be solitude, time to heal, time to refocus, time to hear what your inner brilliance has been literally trying to say to you for however many weeks, days, hours, or moons that you haven't been able to hear yourself, your truth, because you've been in this space of moving forward based on expire expectations, which, if you've been following me anywhere, I talk about it all the time. It's one of the signatures of our 5 permission zones of boundaries, right? Expire expectations is real, and you have to have a loving guard boundary around that. When you have time for yourself, one of the things that comes up when you're even thinking about creating time for yourself, when you feel the urgency to make time for yourself, there is fear that comes up. So instead of going deep into the benefits and the beauty of micro sabbaticals and self-lovecations and the, power of breaking better and all the things that is a core piece of what I teach, from private advisory to self-care guild and so many other programs in between, especially when we're designing, bespoke content around personal development and relational wellness, I want to push that to the side for a second, highlighting that a lot of what we're going to talk about in our moments together came in reflection from my recent self-lovecation, which I've been doing the 6-week version of that for well over 10 years at this point. And we also do a 18 to 21 day at the end of the year, kind of broaching into our new year as well. And then there's also little pockets of things that I do throughout the year and the week, quite honestly, because self-lovecation can be 2 minutes to 20 minutes. It doesn't have to be days and weeks and weekends and all the things. Putting that to the side, one of the things that was coming up for me in my space of contemplation was, when was the last time that I was really scared? And I don't mean from like a physical attack or anything. Let's just assume safety in that regard. I mean it from doing something big. And I've had a lot of scared moments, a lot. I've had moments where I was scared to change pricing in my business, where I was afraid to play with font, right? Like, there's some really tiny things that some of you listening to this are like, what? Like, Naketa, that's so silly. Where I was afraid to change software because technology, as much as I am good enough with technology to be a little dangerous, I'm not a techie. I've never considered myself a techie in any way, shape, or form. I've always actually said, like, the tech gremlins, which is those moments when technology are not being kind to you, they be coming for my life, right? Like they be coming for me. They're like, if something can go wrong, it does go wrong because they be coming. And, of course, you got to be mindful of your language and, what you're putting out there and all of that. And I mean that, like, I'm not being dismissive of that, like, that's real. But that has kind of been like my narrative around some of those things. So I mean it in the smaller perspective to the real problems of this world, right? The smaller things like technical issues to branding, considerations and issues to, pricing, and which is connected to worth and value issues, right? And also, then that's the founder part of me. But then there's also the leaders. I'm a leader within my business. I'm a leader in so many different ways. And some of you listening to this may not have your own organizations, may not even be interested in that, but you have leadership responsibilities in your own right. And there's a fear that comes up for most of us, first partaker, especially when you have to do something different than you're used to doing. Now, some people get really excited about the difference, but I want to tease this apart a little bit. You can be excited, because I get excited by the challenges, like, oh, I'm excited about this new program or this new process or this new system, because I do believe that systems and thick thighs do save lives. I stand on that. That's going to be a t-shirt. Watch it. I've been saying it for years. I mean, I ain't never made a t-shirt yet, but it's coming. It's coming. I get excited about it, but it's a difference between being excited at the innovative creation process when you're just designing it in your mind or even on paper, even typing it up and creating a whole thing. It's different when you have to now implement it. You actually have to show up for it. You have to do the thing and all the little things that go with doing the thing so it can become its own child. It can become its own universe, right? Looking at that during my sabbatical, I had to look at when was the last time that I had done that, because I had gotten pretty confident, pretty good with being like, oh no, we don't charge that no more. It's okay that we used to work together 4 years ago or 5 years ago, or this company hired me to speak there. Well, yep, I sure did that when I didn't understand, when I was so excited to work for you that I exchanged it for pennies and exposure or a sandwich that I can eat because I'm gluten-free, right? Like all the things. Like I sure did back then, but the wisdom, the experience, the know-how, the know better that is now knows that that's not okay, right? And no regrets for what we did. Maybe we had an amazing time. Maybe it was fantastic. Maybe I was very grateful and thankful in that moment. Hallelujah, amen. And in parentheses, because this is the space that I live in. I live in the space of and, not or, and it's my and of choosing, right? I get to choose where I show up and do things at a rate that is not my standard rate, at a power partnership rate, at a nonprofit rate. I get to choose who those people are, who those organizations are that I do that for, not because you offered, I must take, right? 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when I was just starting, I didn't know any better. I was also still trying to figure out who I was in this world of entrepreneurship and a founder and a new leader in my own right, right? So for those of you who got to take advantage of it, whether it was privately, organizationally, speaking stages, and everything in between, good for you. Good for you. I'm glad that you got that amazingness, because the outcome was amazing. What you paid for was amazing, but you got way more than what you should have got, because I just didn't know that I deserved more, right? Because that was a different level of fear. Now, in reflection, and you add in the conversations that I'm having with people post coming back from this sabbatical, where so many things were broken up and woken up for me, that I'm still, honestly, at the time of this recording, it's the end of October, and I'm still processing things from July and early August. What I came to was I've been stuck in a space of an invisible fear. I wouldn't have said to you 12 weeks ago that I was afraid of doing a new thing because I had felt like I got a handle on, got my container, kind of cultivated and locked in and grounded and anchored and all that from an architect perspective. I was settled on like, nope, I don't have any problems with pricing. The price is the price. And if I choose, because we do have a 3G scholarship fund for certain people that we want to work with that we truly believe do not have the exact funds at that time to match whatever it is that we're doing. We do have partnership rates, blah, blah, blah. Like we have systems for when I have to make that decision. I have systems for when I have to make a decision, right? Am I interested? Is it aligned? Do I have capacity? Like I have formulas for everything. I told you guys, I am a nerd for life. No apologies about it. But I would have thought 12 weeks ago that there wasn't too much in this business world that I was afraid of. There wasn't too much in the leadership of self-leadership, of personal leadership, because I also teach these things, right? That I was afraid of. I would not have said that 12 weeks ago. I wouldn't have said like, I'm not afraid of anything, like I'm human, but I definitely would have been able to knock off checklist, like just tick it off of all the things that I wasn't until the sabbatical. And so sitting with me, being with me, listening to me and no one else's voice. Wasn't even listening to podcasts. I did read some books, but not during this particular window of time. I was very mindful of all conversations. I have a bubble within the bubble of my self-lovecation where no one outside of my husband, literally, and the people who live in this house can access me physically via phone, text, message, everything. Social media is off the entire 6 weeks, like all of it. During this time of hearing me, I realized that I was holding myself back from some things. And part of it was under a justified excuse, right? I have a full plate, y'all. Like it is what it is. It is, my plate is full. As many as you and the person next to you and the person next to you on the other side could say like, oh, there's not enough hours in a day. I can definitely say it's not enough hours in a day, for real. And with that, I justified not having enough hours in the day as the reason why I wouldn't recondition myself in how I looked at something as small as technology, which is why I started with this. One of the things that was coming up for me is because you guys don't know, but Think Pro Balance and Relationship Management Institute is our core business. It is our personal development and relational wellness company. And in that, we're architecting cultures of self-care. And we do that in all kinds of ways. But the core ways that we do that is really strengthening relationships, 360 degrees. And we will say it's also about amplifying the intimacy after we've strengthened the foundation of relationships. And intimacy is not just romantic. So it's the personal levels, yes. Sex is included, yes. But sex is like 10% of what we do. 10% maybe on a good day, on a hard day, when that's the overwhelming top of mind thing for that woman founder or leader or that couple that we're working with or that organization, when people from the room where I just spoke on boardroom intimacy or the intimacy of retaining your leaders, right? And reconditioning integrative leadership and all that other stuff that we do, where people privately will come up and say, hey, I know that you're also a sexologist and I'm having this issue. But again, it's like 10% of what I do. So we had this company and we still have this company, and it is our meat and potato. It is where our majority focus is. But I also have this other company that I've never shared. I think I've told maybe 3 people outside of me and my husband having the conversation about it, that is in gestation. It hasn't been birthed yet because I didn't truly feel like I was ready to birth it. It was like, the idea, right? Like the idea is there. I'm excited about it, mapped it all out, did all the things, did our LLC, all the paperwork is papered, all of it. But then I kind of just sat it. It was kind of like, we want to create a baby, but I'm not sure when we're ready to go through all the process. So let me pick out the baby name. Let me get the room ready, right? Like I'm speaking life into it, but I'm not quite ready to get into do the part that is going to create the baby, for lack of a better. And in doing this, and I'll speak to that company in another episode, because again, it's behind the scenes stuff. But in creating that, I sat with, I have to tap into another part of myself in order to have this baby be what I want it to be. Because it is, your kids are your kids. They're coming from the DNA of you. So yes, they have different personalities. And sometimes you question, did they even come from me? Like, you do that. But there's so many threads of similarity that you can't avoid the fact that they're yours. So of course, this new baby that is in gestation, that is in the womb right now, being stitched together in all the ways, has threads that look very similar to Thick Pro. It's beautiful and magical. And the core of me is personal development and growth, right? And relationship wellness and all of it. So of course it's anchored to that. That is a core thread, but it's also very different. And I knew the different part of me that would have to parent differently I was afraid of it, because it requires me to really tap into the part of the narrative that I've always said wasn't me, which is I'm not a techie. That's not me. When really technology is exciting to me in so many different ways. Now, can I code? No, not at the time of this recording. Am I interested in coding? No, not at the time of this recording, right? Like, none of that. But there's all kinds of ways to be a technologist. And then I got confirmed, because, your fears are swirling around in there. And I got confirmed when I went to Grace Hopper Celebration by AnitaB.org. Beautiful CEO that I met in Brazil, Brenda Darden Wilkerson, had invited me to come to happened to be Philly, which is right in my backyard. We're born and raised. 30,000 people, expo, conference, all kinds of wonderful things are happening, learning all different things, amazing speakers from around the United States, like just incredible humans in every way, shape, or form. Overwhelming experience in a good way, like overwhelming. And while I was there and I'm listening, because I went in student mode when I went, it was just confirming what was happening to me in my downloads and sabbatical, where technology is so important for this next phase of what I'm doing with my micro sabbaticals and the teaching of self-lovecations and the strategic ways you can use it for peak performance and all the things. Because I know I have personally experienced, so many of my private clients have personally experienced the benefits of this. But there's so much of it that's done in secret that I know could be amplified with technology. And that requires me to own the technology portion of who I am. So I'm using me as an example, and I'm hoping it's showing up for you in your own way as you're listening to this and thinking, like, where have I been justifying my excuses and hiding behind my full schedule with not doing something because I am unconsciously, perhaps, afraid to do it because I have a narrative around who I am not, what I am not, what I have never been, which will absolutely lead me to another conversation that I'm going to save for another episode. I'll see if I can do it really, really soon, because it's important, especially when we talk about letting ourselves evolve. But I'll kind of taper that. So my question to you, as we wrap up this moment in this day, is what are you justifying with reasonable excuses? Like, you have full schedules, full days, full life, right? Productive, all the things. But what are you justifying not doing because you are even unconsciously afraid? And as you're listening to this, you're realizing that you have fear around you in a way that you never would have previously labeled, because you thought you had all those things handled, but you realize that you weren't doing something, whether it's big or small, because, the measurement of that is totally subjective, simply because of a narrative you had around yourself about who you were not, who you could never be, what just simply wasn't a part of you. So that is my question to you. I will end here and remind you, as always, to rebel against the rush. Embrace a little bit more of the laziness that allows you to hear yourself so you can work less and trust your inner brilliance more. I'll see you on the other side of the moon.